She was criticized because she wasn't home. I was told that I was not doing my job as a provider, and I was looked at sideways when I would show up to volunteer at the kids' school. Like, what are you doing here? Why aren't you at work?
Welcome to Climbing the Corporate Ladder Without Breaking a Heel. I'm your host, Dr. Cynthia. With over 30 years in the corporate world as a single mom, cancer survivor, and often the only woman in the C-suite, I understand the balancing act high-achieving women face. Now an executive coach and international speaker, my mission is to embolden every woman in the C-suite or on the rise to claim her agency and challenge the norms holding her back. Tailored for ambitious professional women, this show features candid conversations with powerful business leaders sharing their real stories of success and failure. If you're ready to look up and step up, you're in the right place. Join us and invest in your future today. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Climbing the Corporate Ladder Without Breaking a Heel. I'm your host and your coach, Dr. Cynthia. Today's episode is for every high-achieving woman who has ever wondered why building a career and sustaining a partnership can feel like competing priorities when they should be complementary ones. Because the way we handle power at home mirrors how we handle it in teams, in boardrooms, and in rooms where decisions get made. My guests today have spent more than 2 decades studying that dynamic, and they have a framework that changes everything. Doctors Jake and Jennifer Dean Hill, therapists, authors, speakers, podcast hosts, and leadership consultants, have over 25 years in private clinical practice, dual doctorates in global leadership. They're licensed independent clinical social workers. They've studied leadership across 13 countries. They're also the co-authors of the Where Two Crowns philosophy and the One Kingdom relationship curriculum, and authors of Two Crowns, One Kingdom, and Reclaiming Eden. They've been busy. Their mission: when relationships work, leadership works better too. Doctors Jake and Jen, welcome to Climbing the Corporate Ladder Without Breaking a
Thank
Heel.
you.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Dr. Cynthia.
We are
It's
so glad to be here.
Yes. Thank you.
being that I'm not clinical, first of all, please call me Cynthia. I always feel I came out of healthcare and I couldn't use my doctor title nearly as openly when I was working with medical doctors and clinical therapists. So it's great to
Oh,
have you
sure.
both. Thank you so much.
Well,
Mhm.
thank
Te-
you. Thank you.
yeah, tell me about, I love to start with the guest origin story. What is it that brought you here that propelled you to author these 2 amazing books and do the great work that you do?
Great question. Shall I lead,
Go
honey?
for it.
All righty. Sounds good. Yeah, we were college sweethearts. So we met in college and we were friends for years. And then we started working together with youth. And we just realized we made a good team. And that led us into getting married and pursuing a life. We grew up in Southern Cal, both of us, and we came up to the Pacific Northwest and haven't left since then. And we ended up raising a family, having our careers. I was an educator prior, and my husband was an administrative pastor at a local church. And we found ourselves burning the candle at both ends.
Mm.
And then we had 2 small children. And our work was very demanding, either as an educator, and then my husband with his position, and he was on a global leadership position as well. So we found our weeks and our weekends just really taken up with a lot of work. And then we had our 2 small kids. By the way, with all the stuff and accomplishments we've done, Cynthia, that's probably our greatest one is titles as mom and dad. Now,
Yeah.
J-Ma J-Ma and J-Pa, right? So
Yeah, your grandkids.
Congratulations. That's
thank you.
amazing. How many
Yeah,
grandbabies do you have?
2.
we've got 2, a
I
little
love
boy and
it.
girl, and
Oh,
yeah, they're just precious,
the
and our
best.
kids are just amazing and very successful, which is such a blessing for us to be able to do our work. But one of the things that we've discovered is that we both wanted to parent and we both wanted to work and we both
Mm.
wanted to pursue our careers. We had both also gone back for our masters. We liked each other so much. We've just done all our education together.
I noticed
Yeah.
that. I'm like, "Wow, that you don't get sick of each other ever?"
Oh, yeah, we
Okay,
do,
so
but
you are
Yeah.
normal. Okay,
We
good,
we're
are
good.
very
normal.
normal,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Y'all, if you're this is not AI, these are real human beings.
It's so true, yeah. No, that's what led us into our work is that we thought, "Good grief," we had a lot of competition, right, for both of us to be we
Yeah,
both were supportive of one another, but you only have so much time in a day, then you have 2 small kids, they're only about a year apart, so we just found ourselves thrown into parenthood and wanting to pursue our careers, and we found a lot of tension, and as it typically goes, right, who gives up their career, the man or the woman, right? It's typically the woman,
right.
and so I found myself pretty frustrated and angry and depressed, and Jake was feeling very much like, "Ugh, I wanna be home. I don't wanna be the only financial provider here." So we talked a lot about that. We both tried to go make some shifts in our, careers, but they're just not accommodating to that, and gosh, this was almost 30 years ago, so hopefully we have a little bit more of, accommodating, corporate cultures, but, either case, we found ourselves having to both leave our careers, and then I ended up starting my private practice, working for myself, and about a year later, Jake ended up leaving his career. He was hoping to stay in his position and work just part-time,
Hmm.
but there just wasn't any flexibility in that. It's kind of an all or nothing mentality. So we found ourselves really frustrated with that because we loved what we did, but we couldn't go part-time or reduce our hours to be able to both raise our kids. So we see so many couples similar to us that have there's just that practical frustration, like, how do we
Mhm.
put food on the table? How do we both care for our kids? So it was kinda like we just I always say I just put on earmuffs and I just said, "I'm gonna do what works best for me, and I'm not gonna listen to any other voices,
Yeah,
and I'm just going to erase everything I was told I have to be and who I'm supposed to be as a woman, and I'm gonna do what makes me happy, healthy." And I just started writing on that board, so to speak, physically and symbolically, and saying, "This is what I want. I want to raise my children. I want a thriving career. I want a happy marriage where we both are working together instead of just like, ships passing in the night."
sure.
And he did the same thing. And
Yeah, we coined the phrase peer marriage, and realized that we both want the same thing. We both wanna raise our kids, we both wanna provide, we both wanna have a career, and
Right,
those models weren't anywhere. I think they're more now. More couples are, pursuing that
right,
and wanting to do both, and I felt like I was getting gypped
mhm,
right,
because I was missing all of those moments at home with our kids, and it was it was hard, and I was so grateful that I had a wife who was saying, "Well, I want you home, and I want to help provide as well," and I know every couple can't do that,
right,
and I think career women are oftentimes criticized for not being home with the kids,
right,
which is sad, but ironically, we don't criticize men very much for that.
mhm,
right,
And
right.
that's what I realize is that I kinda experienced some reverse discrimination in that
mm,
when I would
Oh,
show up.
yeah.
mhm,
I wanna talk about that for a minute though, because I find that fascinating in that
mhm,
um, kind of before your time. I mean, our
mhm,
children are similarly aged, so I'm gonna assume we're kind of in this relative ballpark.
yeah.
And my son now, who's also a Jacob, and his
Oh,
wife just had their first little baby. It's my fourth grandchild, but their first,
Uh,
and they are so pure relationship. I mean, they
yeah,
both work
yeah,
from home. They're navigating. She's a clinical therapist. He, is a video production. So they work from home and they're
yeah,
co-parenting and co-everything. But they
yeah,
didn't have that model, neither of them. Certainly in my household, they didn't have that model. I was the primary breadwinner, and then for a decade, a single mom. Talk about And you're a youth pastor or in ministry, right? You mentioned
Mhm.
early in your early
Mhm.
lives.
Uh-huh.
That dynamic of something really not what people were seeing of
Not
men wanting to
traditional.
stay non-traditional, exactly.
Non-traditional.
Yeah.
How did that impact and how did you negotiate and navigate that part of the relationship? Because that had to be difficult when Jen was feeling frustrated and stuck and what have you, and at the same time, you're going, "Yeah, I get it, but I don't wanna do this by myself either."
Right. No, it was one of
Mhm.
the hardest times in our, marriage
Yeah.
just because there was so little support, right?
Yeah.
She was criticized because she wasn't home. I was told that I was not doing my job as a provider,
Mhm.
and I was looked at sideways when I would show up to volunteer at the kids' school, like,
Yeah.
"What are you doing here? Why aren't you at work?"
Right.
Or when you wanted to give up your career, and we're not just saying this was just something that it was maybe supposed. People literally came up to me and said, "You are undermining your husband's career." And I'm thinking, "What about my career? It does not how is it that his is more important?" So
Yeah.
it was a painful time, but it was a very enlightening time to realize this is not just covert beliefs that are imposed on us as the genders. This is something that people will correct you
Yes.
and shame you, and we were both
Oh,
very shamed. We were in a conservative community, and ironically, the place that Jake was serving at was the whole motto was family first, but it was clearly a certain specific type of family, right?
Yeah.
If you
Family
hard to
looked
first,
at
fit
if
in the
you
the
do
box.
it this way.
exactly, then
Right.
we will totally accept you and advance you.
Yeah.
So we instantly lost, the hundreds and hundreds of friends and supporters when we just said, "We're so sorry. It's not you, it's us,
Right.
and, we are the square peg that is not fitting in this round hole," and we just aren't at peace. We really just our lives were just very tension-filled and unhappy
Mhm.
because we were deviating from what we were wired for.
Right.
Yeah, and people used to ask me if I had any regrets when we did it, and I said,
Yeah,
"Yeah, I do, that we didn't do it sooner."
Oh, I
and
love that.
and
Yeah.
just to clarify what it is we both just worked part-time and started building our careers and then parenting, and the pure term marriage, just to be, uh, respectful, is came from Dr. Pepper Schwartz from University of Washington, who wrote a book called Pure Marriages, and we finally go, "That's what we are.
Ah,
We are a
we have a
pure marriage."
name for it.
Right, exactly. We
Right.
kept trying to come up with names. What are we?
Alright.
Interdependent?
Yeah.
Collaborative? No, no, because it's insinuating that nobody is collaborative, but we're a couple that just said we want equal time and space to raise our careers and our family, so
Yeah.
Right.
I wanna
Yeah.
go I wanna go back to earlier when you said, some of the power dynamics.
Mhm.
Because for the woman listening or the person listening, that tension is there, right? She or they wish to have a career, they have ambition, they have all these things, and maybe it's pre-children, or, kind of early on, but that power dynamic. Talk about what you see you felt it, which I love the fact that I've heard the term we're best poised to serve those we once were, right? And so the fact that
Yeah.
Mm,
you lived this experience and learned from that
Mhm.
experience, I love that it's not like, oh, we just have had this, roses and butterflies and it's been always perfect and we want
Right.
everybody else to
Mhm.
feel the joy.
Yeah.
I'd be
right.
like,
Yeah,
I'm calling BS on that.
true. No,
Right?
Definitely.
we
Yeah,
kinda were
yeah.
like that for a bit too. Yeah,
But
we
talk
kept saying, "Oh, we
about
will do
the
it."
power struggle and what you see in couples that you talk to today as more and more women are entering the workplace, more and more women have big ambitions to advance, et cetera. How do they navigate that?
Well, first of all, I would just say identify what is the power struggle? What are we fighting? And that's our whole curriculum and our whole mantra is wear two crowns. There is enough power to go around.
Mm,
So there is the hierarchical model that you see attributed to patriarchalism or matriarchalism, right? But then there's just the collaborative model, which says, hey, we are both on an even level playing field, and you can wear a crown and I can wear a crown. The challenge comes when we come together and there's two rulers. We don't know
mhm,
how to do that well. Not only in society, we can see globally we struggle with that, but especially among the genders. The mentality is somebody has to give up. And there is a time for that, but I would call that mutual deference, right? So
mm,
I will give to you and then you will give back to me, right? Where it starts to become I will give to you, I will give to you, I will keep giving to you, right? And you will keep taking. And a lot of times I find that with our couples, that's the role the woman plays is I will keep giving, I will keep giving. And society, like I said, just hand slaps a woman for taking her life back, or I would say taking her crown and her kingdom back and saying, "This is mine." We can have a shared kingdom, but we call it the pink kingdom, the blue kingdom, and then there's a purple kingdom. And but we still have to show up. And I, with women I work with, I'm just saying, take your power back. I know it
Mhm.
was you were dismissed, and a lot of times, as soon as marriage comes in, it becomes kind of this hierarchical model. I said, it's up to you to redefine that. So and that's probably the work both Jake and I do is empowering the woman. Take your crown back, straighten it, get back on your
Mhm.
throne. You know, what were you before you had children, grandchildren, or even a career? Careers
mhm,
can be, for single women, very defining, and I find myself, working a lot with all types of women to say, nobody gets to define you. That is your job, and your job is to remember that you're powerful, and that's something you have to take and remind yourself of instead of saying, "It has to be handed to me." If that makes sense?
yeah,
Yeah.
So we all have our personal power to just be responsible for, and I found myself just saying, "Well, I'll take it back, but yes, it's uncomfortable because people are like, 'You're selfish,' you know, 'You're undermining your husband's career. You don't care about your children. You're a bad mother.'" All this stuff was said to me in one way, shape, or form, or another, and I had to politely continue to, um, resist that and just remind myself of who I am, and we get to be powerful, and we get to be achieving.
I love
And we
that.
still get to be nurturing, and
Yeah,
I
so
love
that's
that.
yeah, that's a big thing for women.
for sure.
Jake,
And
so from your perspective, yeah, no, please go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, and we can't expect our spouse to put our crown on.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's
Mm,
that's a lot of people are kinda waiting around for their spouse to promote them, but we have to put our own crown on so that we can be king and queen of our kingdom kind of a thing.
mhm.
that's good.
No, that's yeah, you have to have your own agency and stand in your own power and not be deferential to waiting to be knighted,
Right.
crowned, what have you in your language.
Exactly.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah,
one of the
exactly.
things, Jake, that comes to my mind too is you kind of alluded to when you're talking about the shame of, wanting to be more involved with the kids or showing up the school thing. But so fast
Mhm.
forward, um, the men in the situation that maybe feel, well, if my wife or my significant other is strong and standing in her power, that somehow that makes me lesser or weak or subordinate.
Right.
I have a very, very strong opinion about that, which I am sure you do too. But talk
Oh,
about
yeah.
that when the takeaway is either from the woman's perspective, well, that means I got to find a guy that's milk toast, or from the man's perspective of, well, what does that say about me?
I I think that's an excellent question because we run into that all the time because men love strong women, but most
Where
men
are
do
they?
not. uh,
Sorry, I digress.
but well, it's true, but, what I notice is men love a strong woman, but they have no idea how to nurture that, and
Yes.
there is a lot of men who get intimidated like that by that because they think that they have to be the primary provider. They have to
Mm.
be the one in charge. They have to be the one making the important decisions or all of those things instead of saying we are better together. Like I don't need to be this person, but you have to have security. And I think a lot of men are way more insecure than we like to admit.
Yeah.
And we have a loud bark maybe, but we have a soft underbelly kind of a thing. And it's if we can just own that and go,
Mhm.
I'm okay and you're okay.
Right.
And we get to do this together because I picked a strong woman for a reason.
Mhm.
And if I don't make space for her, then I'm squelching the very thing that I love.
Mm. Right. Right.
Yeah.
There was
Mhm.
a woman whose podcast will her episode will also air during the same time frame as this one. We're focused on relationships,
Mm.
and her name is Mina Wang, and she has a book, Boss Lady, Boss Love. And as I was interviewing
That's
her for the
cool.
show, I felt like it was a therapy session, right? Because I'm a single
Yeah.
woman. My audience knows this. They're probably tired of hearing about it. Um, but her point was this epiphany for me, and I want to share it with you because I think it so relates to what you're saying. She said the challenge that a lot of strong, ambitious, successful women have. And why they often why at times they have difficulty finding their person is because they try to shrink themselves to make space for the tender ego of some of the men, and
Mhm.
therefore, that's who they're attracting, right? They're attracting
Yes.
people
Yes.
that they have to shrink themselves because of the tender ego of the person they've attracted, and that instead,
Sure.
if you stand in your power and you're your authentic self and confident and ambitious and all the things, you will attract a man who is attracted to confident,
Absolutely.
successful women. And I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
so I've
Yeah.
been doing it wrong
Absolutely.
all this time." But
Right.
but that gets
Yeah.
back to your point about not every man or person has maybe that inner self-worth, sense of security, sense of confidence to be comfortable with someone who does,
Right. And
right?
that's what I work a lot with men on is just rebuilding their self-worth and
Mm,
self-esteem. A lot of them have father wounds, where they have felt less than, they don't feel like I'm not good enough. I don't have what it takes, those kinds of things. And so they bring that into their relationships and, it becomes very damaging to everybody.
mhm.
I think what would be helpful too is just share a little bit about your dissertation, what you studied and what you made your topic, which was so enlightening even for me.
Yeah, it was just a fascinating study of understanding what I called it gender synergy. And so, because I thought that was such a great term of bringing the two genders together to have this synergistic, energy and power. And what I discovered is that when we partner with when men partner with women in leadership and in making decisions and corporately and in education and government, and you look all over the world, that every single sector performs better.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And so what we think is because the world has always been male dominant, that is the premier, model. We're missing it.
Right.
And that was what I learned in my study is that why how if we're wanting to be successful and we're wanting the bottom line to go up, then we need to learn how to have gender synergy. Need to
Mhm.
learn how to partner and have this two crown mentality in all areas, not just at home, but
Right.
in the corporate world and in everywhere. But the problem is we have this 200-year-old model that, I guess it's longer than that. Back to
Thousands,
the beginning of time,
Right.
centuries. Yeah. Yeah.
of of just this, you know, patriarchal model that we
Mhm.
think is the only way.
Right,
Mhm.
right. No, I love that you shared that. I speak to that very briefly, but in my latest book, Human Capital Investment Strategy, about how the workforce is shifting so
Mhm.
much.
Mhm.
And I use the book is based in data and evidence to really speak to that C suite middle aged male CEO,
Yeah.
Mm.
because that's the majority, to understand that this is not my covert way of trying to get you to think about diversity. This is my
Mhm.
business professional side saying you're missing something. You are
Mhm.
missing a huge opportunity for the bottom line by not thinking about um gender synergy, to use your
Mhm.
phraseology, which I love. So I know you
Sure.
do also work with organizations and leadership, and so talk a little bit about that same power struggle that we see in relationships and where they show up in this, in corporate
Mhm.
America, and how do you advise around that? What is your tactic to sort of get people to see it and do it differently?
Well, I'll I would probably say again, we go back to the power. Why are we fighting over it? There's enough
Mm,
to go around. Everybody takes their own personal power. So the first thing that we do when we work with organizations is identify what's undermining not only the power, the people in charge, but the personal power of their employees. A person that is powerful, we always say is a power with, versus a power over, right?
mm,
So readjust that mentality. Typically, when you say you're a powerful person, I find women resisting that because we are wired typically to be collaborative in our
mhm,
leadership styles
mhm,
and in our nature. So we're like, oh, I don't want to be powerful. I'm like, no, no, be powerful of who you are,
right.
take your place at the table, right? But then have a power with mentality. That's probably the first thing we look at is how is the power getting undermined, not only in this company, but with employees. We look at mission statements. Typically, there's what we call a mixed message. You're saying one thing and you're doing another, kind of like the
Mm,
family first. I'm like, but what kind of family, right? So
right.
it's like, how do we create alignment? Because when there's a misalignment of what you say and what you do, this creates instability, not only mental and emotional, but corporate instability. So we do a lot of alignment with that. We redefine power. We make sure everybody has their personal power. We identify the people in charge. What are they doing to undermine or tolerate in the corporate culture? So, like a big one, and of course, we specialize more with the relational dynamics of the organization.
Sure.
But it's a lot of times, like, for instance, triangulation. If there's a triangle going on where there's a rescuer and there's a villain and then there's a, victim, we're like, the victim needs to go to the villain or the persecutor and say, "This is what you're doing that isn't working." So once we eliminate triangulation in a organization, we do the same thing in family systems,
Mm.
then you have an opportunity to be able to experience some growth and stability. And
Mhm.
then, of course, you have to teach conflict management. Are you gonna listen to that person when they come to you, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
that's just very basic stuff, but,
Yeah.
that's what we start to do that, just bring out the personal power and the corporate power by creating alignment and, good relational health.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is we talk a lot to organizations that you can't disconnect what you do at home from what you do at work.
Yeah.
Yeah, say more about that. I read that in
Mhm.
studying the both of you. I've been doing my homework, and that really struck me.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
your relationships, go with you,
right.
and I can't tell you how many leaders we've worked with who are struggling in their relationship at home, and they think that they can just ignore that and focus on their leadership development or focus on, I just need to do better team building skills or whatever. And when your relationship works at home and when you have that two crown living at home,
Mhm.
you end up bringing that to the office.
Yeah.
And then you treat the people that you're working with differently, and your emotional energy and your attitude is completely different, right? How many times where you show up to work and you're like, "Oh, what's wrong with you?" It's like, "Oh, well, I got stuff going on at home."
Right.
And it affects productivity, it affects so many things, and so we like to look at it as a package deal that says, "We wanna teach you how to lead at home
Right.
and be co-leaders at home and be co-leader at work and join those 2 things together so that you can be better together."
Right.
Yeah, one of the probably the model that we use too is really getting people out of that scarcity mentality or the
Mm.
fear mode
Mm,
and into the abundance mentality, which is love. And so there's a model that we teach, it starts with love, and then you move out of it like concentric circle, and we call it like a stone that gets dropped off and ripples. So you start with love and then answer the question, how do I matter? Like, did I take care of myself this
Yes.
morning? Brush my teeth, take a shower, right? Get
Right.
breakfast. And then how do you matter, which is my significant others, my partner, my children, that type of thing. And then how do we matter? How do we matter as a family, a team, an organization? So when you can think concentrically like that and start with love versus what am I afraid of? What am I ashamed of? What am I missing?
Mm.
Now we start to get our power back. So now we are powerful because we are grounded in love, which is the whole frontal lobe of our brain
mm,
Right.
versus the amygdala, which is the
Right.
size of an almond, right? So this is
Right.
our best part. So it's getting people to that frontal lobe that helps is what helps with that is the love and increasing the oxytocin instead of the adrenaline.
right. Yeah,
Right.
love-centered leadership is a huge part of what we do
Correct.
teaching people how to go out of those concentric circles because you can't love your significant other or your people you work with if you don't love yourself.
Mhm.
But people miss that all the time.
Yeah, that really struck me when I was reading through the how do I matter? How do you matter? How do we matter?
Yeah.
Is logically that makes so much sense. But
Yeah.
what jumped out at me is, and I'm going to speak about women because that's really
Mhm.
the biggest part of my
Premise. Mhm.
research, right? And
Sure.
my research is we don't start with the how do I matter.
No. I was gonna say that,
Never.
Cynthia. Typically, and I'm stereotyping, but typically that circle is reversed for each gender. So we are starting as women, how do we matter? How do we matter as a
Right.
family? Who cares if I'm
Right.
put together or whatever? I've dragged myself, got the kids
Yeah.
Mm,
to work or school, and then we're getting to work, right? And then but we're not caring for ourselves. So I am typically saying this is reversed. Women, you need to start with yourself. But that is a hard one because women go, "But that's selfish." We're so wired
That's
mhm,
to
right.
be I just love women leaders and who we are, to care for others. Unfortunately, we're no earthly good, and that's typically when, of course, we see people when they're at their worst. So they're dragging themselves into our office or into our trainings, going, "We're just not making it." And
Yeah.
so, it's the women. I'm like, "Okay, we got to flip that around. What did you do for yourself?" And they're like, "But aren't I being selfish?" I'm like, "No, it's called self-responsible, self-nurturing." And then typically for men, I laugh. I'm like, "Men are so good at this." They are so
so good at being
they're
selfish.
so
I
good. No,
always say we need to steal a page out of their playbook
we
because I always
do,
say
we do.
I never wag a finger at men. They're never
Yeah,
indicted. I love them,
me
most of
too,
them.
yeah.
Um, but but the point is, there's so many places where I'm like, this is not an indictment. We need to steal a page out of their playbook.
Well said. That's what I said. I go, "I don't ever have to tell a man, 'Please play more golf.' You're not hunting enough," right? I'm like,
Exactly.
They
You're
make
not
time
watching
for it.
enough
Yeah,
sports.
you are
That's right.
not sitting in front of that TV and watching enough of your
Right.
favorite
You need to
sports, right?
relax more.
You're right. It's usually I'm like going, "Great, you're filled up, you're doing excellent on that. The I matter circle is nailed for you. Let's
Right.
see if we can move beyond that," right? And, then I reverse it, but I agree with you, Cynthia. Men have gotten put down so much on that, and I'm like, "No, they're just very good on that, and they haven't been encouraged to now use your energy and your power and replenishment to think of your wife, your team, right? Don't just
Right.
go in and grab it and just stay in that I matter circle."
Right.
So that's fun to be able to teach corporations that, families that, because it really makes a big difference.
Yeah.
For sure.
When you talked about the home and work, you can't help but think of your own frame of reference, right? You think about
Right.
either that person that you worked with that from all appearances had a really great partnership and marriage and all of that and how they led and say, "Oh, that was such a great example." And then there's the other side of that, the person that maybe you didn't see as a great leader. Tell me, so I have a theory about this, purely my own opinion. Um, but I think not only, so I'm gonna use a generic male female, but for the male leader that is not in a balanced peer relationship at home, perhaps the wife is more subservient, very more the
Mhm.
old traditional model, um, may come to work and employ those same philosophies, tactics, behaviors with the women they work with. But I also have this theory that the opposite happens at times too. If they have a very assertive, very overpowering spouse partner at home, it feels like sometimes they use the workplace to exert their power and energy that they don't maybe have the opportunity at home. Thoughts about that?
Oh,
Is
we
do you
totally
see
see that.
that? Okay.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll speak to that.
Yeah.
I see that all the time, where and I use that as an example with people all the time is that the leadership that you exert at work and how excellent you lead and make decisions and all of that, that needs to be brought home
Mhm.
because your family needs it just the same.
Mhm.
But when you're in this position of power, right, people automatically defer to you in the workplace. But at home, we're not trained to do that. And
Mhm.
so sometimes we function in these traditional roles and we don't realize that, oh, the same principles apply in terms of exerting leadership and strength and power. And we have to share that, which
Mhm.
goes back to, we could be so much better if we both wore our crown.
Right.
But because we don't feel like we have that support and we don't want the conflict, like, most people are conflict avoiders,
Mhm.
Right.
and so if we think we're gonna get pushback from our spouse, w we'll just take the road of least resistance,
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
Mhm.
what do you
Yeah.
think?
I think you nailed it.
So do you
Yeah.
find that when you're working with couples and when
Mhm.
you're
Mhm.
working with organizations that there are a lot of parallels between the
Oh,
struggles?
Oh, yeah. Well, a system is a system, right? So whether it's a family system, institutional system, whatever, and all these systems are made up with people. And
Mm,
every system has a relationship, whether it's a relationship to one another or to the organization. So, yeah, there's a huge parallel, which is why our work overlaps quite a bit. Obviously, the difference with family and especially with marriages is that whole intimacy piece, right? You get very intimate emotionally, physically, all those things. But with a corporation, there's a little bit more, atta detachment. There's not
right.
as that's what we encourage too, is that so that there's healthy boundaries, that aren't as close on that. So that's probably the biggest difference, but when it comes to relationships, what happens in corporations, people bring their family dynamics to work.
Right.
So how they fought as a family, whenever a corporation gets stressed, numbers drop, um, that you tend to find the conflict go up, and suddenly, people that just seem so reasonable and rational are just losing their minds and
Right.
fighting in a way that is like a 10-year-old, and that's normal. That's no shame, it's just what we do, we'll go back to that. So this is a lot of times where we have to help organizations create some really, clear policies, like how to interact,
Right.
right? And what to do when you can't show up for work, things like that, that maybe was a gimme and people worked well with that, but, because of stress that shifts. So we're just always trying to look at the
Mhm.
stress points, the power points in any relationship, and ultimately, which is our book, Two Crowns, One Kingdom, the longings. Everybody has longings. A corporation has a longing to make money, to make an impact on this world. Marriages have longings. What's the vision?
Mm,
And what's our core values? And
Mhm.
what's our strategy to get there? So
yeah.
we see marriages to be like small businesses, so that we bring in a lot of business strategies to be able to build a healthy relationship. Like, where's your vision statement? Where's your mission statement? Where's your core values? And then with businesses, we're like, where's your relational EQ?
Mm,
Where's your connection? So,
That's a good
yeah.
point because, these corporate leaders are doing all of that at work. They're doing the
mhm,
Yeah.
core values, the vision statements, all of the objectives and stuff, and we bring that same dynamic to their marriage and their home life, and it's so powerful because they come up with these super inspiring vision statements and values for their marriage and
mhm.
now they can make decisions together based on that matrix, right?
I
Yeah,
love that. I have
and
never thought about that. So I
yeah,
coach a lot of women. I coach men and women, and one of the things we always start with is their personal mission,
yeah,
vision, and values, because we so often are, putting all our agency into the companies that we're working with if we're not, working for ourselves. And so it's like, but what's your vision? What's your mission for yourself?
mhm,
What are your non-negotiables? I've never thought about how amazing that would be for a couple. I love that you do that, and the
mhm,
parallel I'm
yeah,
thinking about, I was giggling when you're talking about conflict at work and how sometimes, you bring that
yeah,
12-year-old self. I work with some family-owned businesses,
yeah,
and, I which I absolutely love, but
mhm.
multi-generation,
Oh,
and,
yeah,
Yes,
it's
that's
it's
fun.
comical at times because you've
yeah,
got, siblings working
right,
together, and then they also clearly are family members, and sometimes the dynamic, I'm just looking around going,
yeah,
nowhere in business in my 35 years would people
right,
have spoken to each other like that or behaved or text that
yes,
way to one another. But I'm like, stop acting like brothers. This
exactly,
is a
yeah,
Right.
professional
oh, man,
environment.
yeah, it's true.
No sibling
It
rivalry
Yeah.
allowed.
Yeah, we've got
Yeah.
pretty funny stories on some of those things too, and you go, "Oh, your little five-year-old came out there."
Yeah,
Well,
the lines get very blurred very, very
right,
quickly. Um,
right.
what
For
is I
sure.
j so a couple more things, we're getting close in time, and I wanna respect your schedules, but, when you think about partnerships and as you're defining them, what is the thing, if anything, that each person needs to maybe give up?
That's a great question. I'll let you start that.
Well, I think you have to give up your idea of how you think it was supposed to be.
Mm,
And I think I grew up in a traditional home and and so when it's all you know, it's
right.
all you know. And so you think that that's the way it's supposed to be. And when you give up that almost right to have that because you think that that's normal or that's the way it's supposed to be, and you submit, right? We're all about mutual submission, which I
Yeah.
think is
Mm,
the most beautiful model of leadership, right? It's
Mhm,
kind of like servant leadership in a way where
mhm,
we both are mutually submitting to each other, which means you
mhm,
have to give up some of your ego. You have to give up some power, some decisions in that so that you can be better together.
mhm,
Uh, and and you have to give up this model that maybe is all you know. You
right.
have to consider that there is a different way and even a better way.
Yeah.
mhm.
I wanna ask a clarifying but before you, share, Jen, I wanna ask a clarifying
Yeah,
question,
sure.
because I think the person listening might have the same question. I'm thinking of my grandparents who had this
Uh,
beautiful marriage. My
mhm,
grandmother stayed home, raised children. My grandfather created
yeah.
a construction business, but my grandmother, I know she did the books, both of them with no more than an eighth grade education, and created this amazing
Wow.
company.
Amazing.
It's a beautiful love story. But what I want to make sure, because what I don't hear you saying, and I want to say this and let you react to it, is that this doesn't mean that every couple, whatever that means in your partnership, by the way, whether you're married, same sex,
Mm,
whatever your partnership looks like, it doesn't mean that we both have to have, from a career perspective, the same ambition for
Uh,
professional careers and this and that. It could be,
mm,
when I think about my grandparents, this very equitable, very pure relationship
uh-huh,
in how everything was run, even though, even in that, my grandmother stayed home and raised the children, and my grandfather worked outside the home, but shared decision making, shared,
mhm.
respect, etc.
vision.
Right?
Yeah.
So in this Two Crowns, it's not, to your point about it's not one
Mhm.
defined thing. How you shape
And,
that could look a lot of different ways. But the
yes, that is such a
commonality is
good
what?
clarification.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's about, it's about walking in your strength. What are you
Mm,
passionate about? So it
yes.
doesn't matter if you have traditional roles according to genders, or it doesn't even matter if you're a minority marriage, whatever it
Right.
is that you feel passionate about and what you need to do, then it's about coming together with that other person and saying, "Can we do this together?" And then what is our shared vision,
Yes.
right? And having that shared vision of is, can we both have power? Can we both, have our own autonomy to
Right.
say, "This is what I do best"? Can we
Right.
trust each other on that? So many times we're just seeing, relationships or even corporations, dictating who a person is and what they should be, and the person is crumbling. They're just not feeling good, and I'm like, we all have to be true to who we are. So
Mhm.
like with your grandparents, that's a beautiful example of they had a common vision, they worked hand in hand, and they stayed true to their roles. They that would be beautiful. I wish that was the case for Jake and I, right? I'm like, I was so fulfilled at just being purely a mother, but I'm like, I
Right.
was so disappointed with myself. I'm like, "Dang it, I want more," right? So, it's
Same.
all about. Yeah, exactly, right?
Mhm.
So, if he didn't trust me and say, "You've gotta be happy, and I need to see your strength shine. I miss
Right.
that." I need to demote myself professionally to promote yourself. Well, that can take you forever to forever,
Mm,
right? Which is
Mm.
we allow ourselves to shift, grow, change, trust one another, but say, "Well, that's your crown, that's your kingdom. What do you need?"
right.
Right?
I love
Yeah.
that. That's such a beautiful a beautiful way of thinking about it, and I'm glad we created that clarity so that nobody
Yes.
leaves thinking that there's one model, right?
Ew,
It's
ew.
so much bigger and deeper than that. I always end the show with asking our guests, what's one small thing, because we don't have to overhaul our lives to in this moment, right? But somebody out there is going, "Oh my gosh, this so resonates." What's one small thing you would encourage the person listening to do today?
Well, I'll say, give up fear, choose love.
Yeah.
What are you afraid of? Identify it and replace it with what is it that you love in life, and give it all you got. Go for it, and don't let people tell you this is who you need to be.
Mm.
Be what you brings you life and light and makes a positive influence and impact to bring light and love out for others.
I
That's what
love
I would
that.
say.
Yeah, and I would say put your crown on. Adjust it,
Ah,
straighten it, be proud of it,
Yeah.
and function in your greatness
Mhm.
and bring yourself forward so that you can, have beautiful gender synergy.
Yeah. Mhm.
beautifully said. What a mic drop moment. Doctors Jake and Jen, thank you guys so much for being on the show. Your wisdom, based in evidence and data, but also your own lived experiences and just your heart's full of love is so
Mm,
inspirational. And I know that many of our listeners are going to walk away with feeling more inspired, more motivated
Mhm.
to put that crown on or adjust it appropriately. So thank you so much. I appreciate you both.
Thank
thanks
you
so
so much
much
for
for
having
having
us. We
us. Yeah,
appreciate it and your
Of
work that
it's
you're
course.
been
doing.
such a pleasure.
Thank you
Thank you.
guys. That concludes today's episode of Climbing the Corporate Ladder Without Breaking a Heel. I hope that you walk away with so many great nuggets. This notion of mutual submission, this idea of asking, let's see, I've got it here. How do I matter? How do you matter? How do we matter? Recognizing that that energy and that fulfillment at home translates to the workplace, and we want you to be fully fulfilled with great joy and human flourishing. Until next time, I've got you, and you've got this. Congratulations on choosing to invest in yourself. I know your time is precious. Thank you for spending it here with me. I believe in helping you look up, step forward, and fully realizing your potential. If today's conversation resonated, I'd be so grateful if you'd rate and comment on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And if you know someone who would benefit, please share this episode with them. Let's stay connected. Visit me at dr-cynthia.com, and you can find me on all the socials at Dr. Cynthia Bentzen-Mercer. Until next time, remember, boldly start working on your future today.